Nindam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dhilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyanandam, to all the honorable members of Kailasa's Rajya Sabha House of Parliament, all the esteemed guests and the global citizens of Kailasa that have gathered with us live right now. It is a privilege to welcome every one of you to this momentous session of the Rajya Sabha House of Parliament. And today, we gather not merely to deliberate, but to address one of the most pressing issues of our time, the enduring legacy of colonialism and its modern day manifestations in the economic and the inequality at large. Colonialism, as we know, was not only a historical injustice but a continuing reality. A recent report published by the Oxfam called The Takers, Not Makers, The Unjust Poverty and Wealth of Colonialism, has laid bare the staggering extent of exploitation, particularly the economic exploitation of, say, $4.82 trillion and more that was drained from ancient enlightened Hindu civilization and just the British Empire alone. Even today, wealth flows disproportionately. The impact of the colonialism can be seen, perpetuating inequality and depriving billions of dignity and opportunity. And at the heart of this transformative discussion is going to be Kailasa, the world's only Hindu civilizational nation, revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam. Swamiji has tirelessly worked to reclaim the glory of the Hindu Dharma, reviving, re-establishing the political, social, and economical legitimacy of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, creating a global model rooted in Dharma, Ahimsa, non-violence, and self-sufficiency, reviving the ancient, enlightened Hindu civilization. Through various initiatives like Analaya, Ishanya, offering free education, free healthcare, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has exemplified the principles of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the advanced civilization of Sanatana, the Hindu enlightened Hindu civilization that existed. And today, we have with us gathered all the members of Kailasa's Rajya Sabha House of Parliament, all the members of Parliament of Kailasa's Rajya Sabha, all of whom have gathered here from various different countries around the globe, who represent the Hindu diaspora in various different countries. We have the Rajya Sabhas, the MPs from members of parliament from Kailasa, Canada. We have members of parliament from Kailasa, San Jose. We have members of parliament from Kailasa, Los Angeles and Kailasa, Australia, and various different Kailasas around the world. So now joining with us, we have various parliament members of Kailasa's Rajya Sabha, and we are going to entering into this debate, a very, very, very important subject, where this is going to be, especially to all the viewers who are watching us live there. Whether you are a born or a practicing Hindu, this is something that you need. Today, we are going to be shedding light on some of the very, very, very important subjects, which is going to be established statistically and bringing the evidence from the latest researches, studies, and proving the important aspects about the truth of the Hindu history and what kind of colonial oppression, suppression, and persecution the Holocaust Hindus have faced. And we're also going to be shedding light on the various solutions that are available and accessible for the modern day humanity to be able to revive Sanatana Hindu Dharma and to become part of the Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the revival the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been doing and continuing to do, and by creating the seed bank of Hinduism called Kailasa. And today's discussion, the agenda of today's debate is to discuss and examine the economic, social, moral implications of colonialism in the past, in its present, and to explore actionable solutions to dismantle the neo-colonial systems, and also to highlight the principles of Kailasa, the various initiatives that offer a sustainable, equitable alternative for global economic justice. So, together, let us get ready to explore diverse perspectives, foster meaningful dialogue, and work towards the resolution that exemplify Kailasa's commitment to creating a world where justice, harmony, and prosperity prevails for all.
So now we are going to be entering into the subject of debate right now. We are going to be starting the debate, and joining with us we have the members of the Rajya Sabha from around the world, as all of you can see, and people coming from different corners of the world. Literally all time zones are present over here. And now we are going to be starting the discussion. Now we are going to be explaining how this is going to be. As the Hindu diaspora has gathered here, especially the Rajya Sabha members that are here, we thank each and every one of you for taking your time and coming here for this debate. Nithyananda, to each of the members of the parliament, the Kailasa's Rajya Sabha, thank you so much for joining us here and taking your time and coming for this discussion and the debate. So guidelines are going to be very simple. Those who are wanting to talk, whatever points you're going to be presenting, each of you are going to be given a minute to 2 minutes. This will be the time frame. So you can present your perspective, whatever points, especially the statistics, given understanding the reality of what Hinduism has gone through and continuing to go through, especially in your geographical locations, and seeing the colonial oppressions and suppressions that the Hindus have faced. So we invite each of you to come, and you can take the stage and you can present your perspective, whatever you want to present. And we will also be having a separate time once everyone finishes presenting their points. We will also be having the time where you can ask your questions, and we can also have a meaningful discussion towards a solution as well. So now we are going to be starting with the discussion, and we are going to be inviting each one of you to be able to come and present your point, but let's also ensure that we are keeping up with the time.
So the first question that we would like to call upon for all of your inputs is to discuss and understand the impact of the colonization on the enlightened Hindu civilization, as an economy and society at large. And how did the extraction of 64.82 trillion from the Hindu's enlightened civilization during the colonial rule affects its economic foundation, and how does this legacy persist today? So we would like to call upon the members of parliament to please shed light your thoughts on these.
Nithyanandamma.
Nithyanandamma.
This is Manitya Divyananda from KAILASA, San Jose, the member of parliament of the Rajya Sabha member. So what you shared, I want to like to bring to attention a very important point, which was the main principle of the Hindu economic policy, which made the Hindu economy so flourishing. So in Bharat earlier, we had this Varna Ashram Dharma, where where different individuals of society, they were it was they become they based on where they are born, like Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the specific categorization, and they excel in that. and they excel in that, and then the generations continue with more excellence. Now, the destruction of Varna Ashram Dharma by the British was a systematic effort to undermine the cultural and the social fabric of the Hindu society. And the British colonial rule sought to conquer India, the Bharat, not just military but also culturally. They actually recognized that the Varna system which we have, this organized society which we have, based on the duties and responsibility the people are taking, was integral part of the stability and the prosperity of the Hindu civilization. So what was done? They misrepresented the Varna system, and they created divisions among different groups, and they setting them against each and other. Now this division weakened the stability of the society and led to conflicts which which disrupted our traditional way of living. And also there was destruction of the Gurukul system, which further excavated this issue, as as Gurukul was a vital means of knowledge transfer and the cultural education, the education of our traditions. Now what happened with the decline of these Gurukul system, with the destruction of the Varna Ashram Dharma, the transmission of values which was associated with the Varna Ashram Dharma diminished, leading to a loss of respect for one's duties and responsibility. Now, this disruption had a lasting impact on Hindu society, connecting to a disconnect from its rich cultural heritage and spiritual practices. And Bhagavan, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, has created Kailasa, the only Hindu nation where he is reviving the Varna Ashrama Dharma by re-establishing the principles of duty, responsibility, and ethical living within the society. Now, this revival is rooted in the understanding that each individual has a unique role based on their inherent qualities, which contributes to the overall harmony and prosperity of the society. Kailasa promotes education that aligns with the ancient sacred sciences and the knowledge systems. And also with the Gurukuls, we knew these traditional roles and the wisdom and the skill that honor these traditional roles, which is defined by the Varna Ashram Dharma. Now, what happens? This ensures that individuals, they are not just educated, but they are also empowered to fulfill their dharma. Kailasa emphasizes community service and self sufficiency, encouraging individuals to engage in activities that benefit society while adhering to their respective duties. And Kailasa's efforts focus on creating a society
Yes,
where
thank you.
Exactly.
What you highlighted is a very important point. And I would also like to add to this about how, in what precisely what you're mentioning is what also in a very detailed report that was Kailasa's report that was published by the United Nations, where we have highlighted a very detailed study on how this very systemic racial discrimination, caste-based discrimination, and misrepresenting, marginalizing Hindu civilization and wrongly attributing caste to Hinduism. And very elaborately, very detailedly, Kailasa's report, which was published by the United Nations on issue of racism, racial discrimination, and xenophobia related intolerance. We very elaborately have highlighted this point about caste that you brought up. So thank you for highlighting that, Ma. And this also brings me to another point that I would like to call upon all of you to discuss about. We would like to ask you all, what role did colonial policies play in shaping modern societal inequalities in the enlightened Hindu civilization, such as caste, gender, and regional disparities? So we would like to request all the members of Rajya Sabha to share your thoughts on this. You can unmute and you can speak, you can share your thoughts.
Nithyananda, this is Vinesh from San Jose. Building off of what Madhyavananda had said, Hindus are generally unaware of the full extent of the colonial economic, cultural exploitation that took place during the British rule. In the economic part is very striking because in 1760, after 1,000 years of invasions and looting and plundering, India still represented 27% of global economic output, which is almost 1/3 of entire globe's output. Amazing figure, even after all that devastation. But after only 200 years of British rule, we were down to 3% and completely impoverished. This didn't happen randomly or organically. This was very systematic. The British suppressed all native industries. They taxed Hindus into poverty. They seized temple administration and temple wealth. They banned gurukuls. They banned Hindu practices in many forms. They kind of established this caste system in a very negative way to divide and conquer us. And Oxfam put it very clearly for all of us to see a few days ago. That $64.8 trillion of wealth was transferred from India to Britain during that time of their rule. And India was left completely destitute. And what most Hindus don't realize is that Bharat, once it became independent, we think everything was fine then. But things didn't change. A lot of the colonial ideas, institutions persisted well beyond independence. And to this day, where the Gurukul system is still very much suppressed, temple wealth and administration is still controlled by the government. Hindu practices like firewalking and other things are still banned. And I think the persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism provides a very clear, vivid example of how this is going on to this very day, to the point where he had to leave Bharat in order to fulfill his mission. And this is why we need Kailasa, the ancient, enlightened, Sanatana Hindu civilizational nation, to be a seed bank for Hinduism, not just to preserve it, but also to revive it and bring it back in its full flowering authenticity.
Thank you, Aya. Just one thing, you are someone who has a legal background. You are someone with a background as an attorney and familiar with the laws. I just wanted to ask you, now from this perspective, especially when you are seeing the modern day system that is there established in the modern day India, not the Hindu nation that we had, but the now secular nation that is there, what do you see as colonial, what was there a colonial implication in the moral systems? How do you see the implication of the colonial era still being there? And actually, it is like how the Oxfam study had put it. It's just a change. It's literally like a change of dress of the same colonial set, just as a modern upgrade. So what do you see? Can you give us some references that you are able to see as still prevalent laws, which clearly show how it is not an independence, but actually the mindset is still continuing and it is still suppressing and oppressing?
Yes, well, the economic exploitation, the example that I find most striking and most horrible in a place that claims to have religious freedom is that the temples themselves, that are the very wealth of Hinduism, the very center of Hinduism, are still completely controlled, not by Hindus, but by the government, which claims to be secular. And it is not for Hindus, it's for supposedly everyone, but they take that wealth and then they divert it to other causes, leaving those temples in disrepair, leaving them out of control of their own wealth and their own destiny. They can't even control what land they control, what they do with those structures. They're completely bound by regulations and by laws that are not designed to protect them or anything. It's designed purely to control them and suppress them. And we see the result of it when you visit India, when you see the condition of some of these temples. It's very, very tragic. And the Gurukul example is also a very striking example because Swamiji has shown us through his own experience and his mission how by the simple act of establishing a Gurukul, he was attacked completely through all sorts of laws and all sorts of so-called, again, child protection laws and various things that sound very good on paper, but are actually designed to control and suppress and undermine Hindu native rule. And and I think Madhyavananda also made a great point about Varnashana Dharma. Under the auspices of child labor laws, a son can't learn his father's profession. But in the original system in Bharat, that was actually a great wealth because it allowed, by the age of 16, you could be an expert in your field. And that, as those skills got more and more specialized, it led to India becoming an economic powerhouse. But that today is considered completely illegal and completely anti-child, which is absurd. But it's like I said, to people on the outside, it sounds like a nice, noble principle, but in practice, it's actually quite destructive and quite exploitative.
Thank you, Aya. That's a very important point that you had addressed.
And like you highlighted, because even in the report, it clearly says that to this day, 3.6 billion people, which is 44% of the humanity, lives on less than $6.85 per day. And number is same as in 1990. So there's even the modern, so many social institutions that are forming and so many organizations that are coming together to work on helping the poverty. But on the other side, the billionaire wealth has it that rose 3 times faster than in 2024 than in 2023, which means it is only on the increase, which is the richest 1% in the global north receive approximately $263 billion annually from the global south, which is equivalent to a rough of 30 million per hour, whereas the majority of the poverty population is largest global south as opposed to the global north.
And it was also the absence of this, the policies of what the Hindu jurisprudence had, the Hindu constitution had, because the Hindu principles were the reason why, despite so much of persecution and attacks and the Holocaust that we were subject to, despite all of that, we were still able to have 1/3 of the global contribution of like the global GDP was from Bharat, from the Hindu kingdoms. So that is a very clear example also to show how our principles were successful, but now because we lost that Hindu administration, the Hindu principles got lost. Today, still, we are not able to recover. The people who are poor continue to be poor, continue to be exploited because the fundamental basis is missing. I think Ma Sona also wants to add a point here. Yes, Ma Sona, you could go ahead now, Ma.
Actually, Nithyananda Ma, I'm Ma Sona from the Midwest, and I actually wanted to add on to what Vinesh was saying because I think this ties in nicely with what he's also bringing to light. And that is, you know, in the 17th century, India was actually one of the leaders of the textile industry. And in fact, Bharat contributed about 25% of the world's exports on textiles. But in 1757, the British East India Company took control of Bengal. And remember, Bengal was the heart of Indian textile production. In fact, some of the fabrics that came out of Bengal, the Decca the muslin fabric, which is a very thin fabric, came from Bengal, and it was often referred to as woven air from Europe and Middle East. The British East India Company forced the weavers into contracts that were exploitive and they were brutal. They banned them from selling their goods independently. So they subjugated these weavers. Not only did they subjugate these weavers, but they, because the Gurukul system was broken down, the children that used to learn at the parents' knees how to weave and do these types of arts were no longer being taught these skills. And so this next generation didn't have the opportunity to learn that skill set. The British then systematically put in weavers to learn these arts from Bharat and from the Hindu weavers. And once those arts and skills were learned of how to weave these very delicate fabrics, they cut off the thumbs of the Hindu weavers so that they couldn't teach anyone else, nor could they produce these quality fabrics, and they would lose the competition. So I will tell you that in January, 2 years ago, the local art museum near me actually had an exhibit called the Global Threads, the Art and Fashion of Indian Chintz. And this was put on by the Royal BC Museum. I was very excited because I thought I would get to learn something about my heritage and culture and about the fabrics, because Bharat has contributed so much to the textile industry. So I went to attend that. It was very disappointing when I and my husband, who had bought our tickets early on and got tickets in front row seats for this exhibit, not once was the brutality of what happened and how the British Empire actually destroyed the industry within Bharat was highlighted. In fact, all that was mentioned at this exhibit was that that the need and the consumer, greed that increased because these fabrics were wanting to be consumed more and more, spurred the Industrial Revolution in Europe so that they would start producing more fabrics. But what about the brutality? What about where they learned the technology? Where did that information go? None of that is highlighted to this day and age. And our technology, our science, our arts, our skills are very slowly taken. That technology is taken, it's stolen, and not once are we ever given credit for it. It's really repulsive. And that has to stop. It has to stop because our children need to know what our heritage is. The world needs to know where most of the science and technology has come from. And that is what the SPH is doing with Sri Kailasa. He's reviving these authentic Hindu traditions and reviving Hinduism so that that science can be reborn and given back to the world for the betterment and evolution for all, not just a select few. Not just a
Thank you so much, Dr. Masona, for introducing this. I also wanted to just add to this because you as a doctor, being in as a very elite part of the society, taking a huge risk. You're in the United States of America, where you are as a practicing doctor. So now you are seeing these things, and I know especially you being a very integral part of Kailasa, being as a Sarvangapita Ejama, Sarvangapita Kata. So how do you see being like, when you are seeing these facts, historical facts, and when you're seeing this, and when you're seeing what Swamiji has been doing, what is it, how do you feel, and what do you think that how do you feel that this is impacting the whole of humanity itself as a solution for humanity itself?
Well, first, let me tell you, having grown up mostly in the Midwest, I also was not aware of all these atrocities and the brutality and what is happening, systematically happening at all levels in all countries, and how this is actually going to affect and impact us. I was completely unaware until I first met the SPH. And it was he who awakened me, and I started to understand that his mission is actually a mission that impacts all of us. But until I met him, I wasn't even aware how important it is to preserve Hindu principles and Hindu technology and all of the teachings, because it's there not just as a religion, but as a science to help humanity exist and for this planet to exist without us, and to be able to all coexist symbiotically without destroying the planet. And what he's doing and reviving is so important because the future generations, I have children. I want them to be able to inherit a world that they can live in and coexist with their, other citizens of the world who take care of each other and the planet. And that's the heritage that he's giving us.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for adding that beautifully. Actually, as you highlighted some of the important things about the textile, I just wanted to add, because even Hindus are not aware of this, even Hindus unfortunately feel that our ancestors did not have anything great. And we feel like, generally speaking, Hindus are not aware because there's no source where they're able to learn this. The schools are not teaching the science, and they're not even aware of this. And as Swamiji's created a seed bank of Hinduism in Kailasa, one of the important things is also the sacred arts that Swamiji is reviving all the sacred arts. Even already in Adi Kailash, Swamiji has revived a lot of these different sections in this Hindu sacred arts. And now in Kailasa, in a larger scale, Swamiji is reviving these sacred arts and revealing these sciences of how these things like, extraordinary feats that were done by the indigenous communities within Hinduism. Swamiji is reviving those communities, reviving these sciences as well. Just wanted to add to that. Thank you so much, Dr. Sonam.
And next, we have the member of parliament from Canada, Sri Nitya Shivagnana Swarupananda here, Nithyanandamaya, and he is a senior director at Allied Solutions. And Nithyanandamaya.
Nithyanandama. So I think just not, I won't spend a minute on this. I just wanted to bring up, I mean, not if I would say before meeting Swamiji, I thought I was a real Hindu, true Hindu, but I can clearly say I did not know what Hinduism was all about until meeting Swamiji and seeing how, and being part of the Paramashiva Sena program that just happened recently and being the first batch, I kind of understand how much reviving this Hindu nation civilization and the lifestyle is, and with the British impact in terms of mainly our Gurukul is very close to me because my kids are going to be part of Gurukul, and seeing how the impact has come and brainwashed us Hindus right now. Even for example, right now when we think we know about the Gurukul system, I can clearly say that a lot of Hindus don't understand it. For example, with my kids going into the Gurukul system in very soon, our families being Hindus think, have we lost our minds? Because the Western impact of the Western education on the education system is like, no, are your kids going into a sorcery school? Are they not going to learn education? Are they not going to learn physics? I said, no, it's the lifestyle. If there's no grounding from a spirituality perspective, there's no way you can learn anything. For example, the public school systems here in Canada are really bad. What they're learning, what they're teaching is completely atrocious. And my wife, Mashivanyana Swarupa, being a teacher in the public school system, can definitely attest to that. And I think the impact of this colonization on us Hindus, we really need to step up and wake up, because that as kids nowadays are losing it. A lot of stats are showing on how much the rate of depression has gone up, people completely losing their identity and all that. So I think Gurukul is the way it had, and Swamiji having that option to revive Gurukul in his own sovereign land so he can bring it up the way it has supposed to be done, rather than being impacted by all the legal policies and the country's laws, which can shut down the Gurukul like it just happened in India. So I think that's all I want to say about the Gurukul system and how we can do and how much Swamiji is really pushing to revive this civilization.
Actually, just wanted to add to what you were saying here, because the first school in England where the modern system is the Macaulay's education system, that's what all of us are studying, right? So when this was given, the first school in England was opened in the year 1811, right? At that time, there were 7,32,000 Gurukuls in our ancient Bharat, the Hindu civilization. We had 7,32,000, which is 732,000 functional schools. The Gurukuls were already there. And these Gurukuls did not just teach chanting like how popularly or the brainwashed of the neo-Hindu cult tries to brainwash us. No, we had sciences such as metallurgy, aerodynamics, hydrology, space, solar science, lunar science, and meteorology, cosmic research, astronomy, mathematics, physics, biology. And like this, they were extraordinary. There were 45 subjects, like which is able to be mapped to the modern day subjects. There were 45 much advanced subjects that were taught in these gurukuls. And when the British colonized us, they actually did a survey. There was a survey that was done by Macaulay. Macaulay had a few people whom he sent out to actually do a survey to check and see what was the reason why, despite so much of attack, despite the Holocaust that we faced, be it the Goan Inquisitions that we faced, or whether it was the destruction caused by the Mughals or by many of the barbarians, whether it was the Portuguese or the Dutch, whichever type of barbarians tried to invade us and persecute us, despite all of that, something made the entire Hindu civilization sustain all that, yet be prosperous. So the British were trying to find out what was the reason. Why? How is it that we were all able to be so intelligent? And when they did a survey, they had G.W. Luther and Thomas Munro, two of the people, British officials, who went and surveyed the northern part of the Hindu civilization, the Hindu nations, and the southern part of the Hindu nations. And did you know something? In their survey, they're very clearly stating 97% of people in the northern area of the Hindu civilization were educated, highly educated. 97% was the literacy rate. Same way, in the southern part, 100% was the literacy rate. 100%. This is what was there in the survey, on which Macaulay clearly stated that if they have to enslave the Hindu civilization and enslave everyone, the first thing that needs to be broken, the backbone of it which needs to be broken, is the education system, which is the reason why they broke the education system of the Hindus, the Gurukul system, where, like, it's so sad and shocking to hear how people can tell like this, like what you're saying. Even though the people who are here in so-called Hindus are able to claim that, why Gurukul, and Gurukul in such an abusive manner. See, unfortunately, this is the product of the brainwashing that is being done. But nobody makes us aware of 732,000 Gurukuls that existed with 45 subjects. And what I'm talking is 45 is the main subjects. There were other sub-subjects as well. And this one this was when England, that was the very first school they were trying to launch at that time. Which is why the Macaulay decided that to enslave the Hindus, the first thing that needs to be done is break the very backbone, which is the Gurukul system, which is why he brought the enslaving education system. This system was designed to create slaves. He very clearly tells that even in his speech, and based on which the modern day education system was given, which is the reason why till now we are not able to recover from what we had lost.
Yes,
we
madam.
recovered even when the Mughal invasions happened, but this is the main reason why we are not able.
I definitely agree with you, because I'll just give you a quick example. Like here in Canada, just visiting a couple of temples, the priests, chief priests who have kids, they are in the Macaulay education system. And literally, when I kept telling them about our kids joining Gurukul, the answer I get from them is that you're doing the best thing for your kids, because they're kids who are brought up in that lifestyle, being priests, cannot now, he says, I can't even get my own child to come into the temple, to be part of the temple ecosystem. So that's, I can literally see how the impact is of the Macaulay system.
That's very true. Thank you for highlighting that. Like Macaulay says in his speech in 1833, he says we must at present do our best to form a class who will be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. A class of persons who are Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. And here he uses the word Indian, but what they were at that time, there was no India. It was the Hindu civilization, the enlightened Hindu civilization that existed. And their target, their only goal was this. They wanted to create a class of persons who are Hindus in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and intellect. And this leads me to the next question that I would like to ask and call upon the members of parliament to speak about is what measures can we take to restore the Hindu traditions that were marginalized or eradicated during the colonial rule? And how has the colonial extraction from the enlightened Hindu civilization influenced global economic disparities that we are facing currently today? I'd like to call upon the members of parliament to shed light on this topic next. You all can go ahead and talk. Okay, we have Murali Mageshan Ayya, who would like upon the subject. Please go ahead, Ayya.
So he's here, I think, from New Zealand, Nithyananda Ayya.
Nithyanandam. My name is Murali Krishna Magesan. a Rajya Sabha member of KAILASA from New Zealand. Because this whole topic and discussion is on colonization and its effects, an important component is looking at the reversal of it, or the decolonization process. And if I had to say, like, in summarize in one line, basically, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and KAILASA embody decolonization in action, because it's not about just making a nation with a Hindu in name only, but it's an uncompromising revival of the once existing ancient Sanatana Hindu civilizational nation. And that sees a lot of the effects of colonial structures actually removed, because Swamiji is going back to what it actually was. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was going back to what it actually was, embodying what Hindu identity, culture, practice, people, and ultimately the civilization itself. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you so much. And also, we have Nithyananda Maya, who's been, who's also from the medical field, who's here with us.
Just start talking. I want to have the few points for the debate today. Number one, that the British colonials have left our country, but still our country is not out of their clutch. We can see there are so many signs that are still clutch. Number one thing, they still want to keep the name India. Why? So maybe they are Hindus, but they are so-called Hindus. They are not really Hindus. So we should discuss and what we can do to recognize our country and register as a Bharat, not as a India. That is number one. The second thing, that our Hindu ancient temples in the India are run by the government. Why they should run by the government? Why not by the devotees? Because they are the devotional centers, they are not the political centers. And I think still it looks like that some people, to take their benefit, people are continuing that the government, not by the devotees. And the third point that I want to discuss, that what we can do to make our future generation stronger and more kind of that aware, so they cannot be invaded, or they cannot be that have some impact of that kind of negative effect, like we had that Mughal empires and the British empires. And that's it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Rasikaya. And like you said very rightly, even though the notion of colonialism has ended, but actually it has not ended. It is continuing even today in all levels, whether it is at a personal level or it is at a cultural level, the community around us. In every level, the colonization is still continuing very actively. And
Yes.
by the grace of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has revived Kailasa as the first nation for Hindus, as a bold statement to reverse the effects of the Hindu Holocaust and the effect that it has impacted every single Hindu, whether it is the Hindus, our ancestors, the sacrifice that they have done, recognizing and bringing to light that sacrifice, or whether it is our own communities, like how Sri Shivanyana Sarupaya was sharing, for himself and his kids, the next generation, how to protect them from this neo-colonization and how to revive the Gurukul system of education. So in every aspect, how the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has actually revived and is reversing the effects of the colonization and the Hindu Holocaust.
And adding here to Tatwa Maharaj, the Kailasa, the nation itself has been established as the solution for this entire colonization effect that is still lingering around in the day to day. Even though the colonization, the colonizers have officially left, but the mindset and the ideas which have been deeply engraved into us have literally changed our very genetics. In fact, if we look at the history, right, at one given point in time, we had Hindus, like for example, let's take the Madurai Meenakshi temple. And when we look at the great kings who were there, in the temples, we have the great pillars which are carved with the kings who built those temples. If you look at them, all majestic figures, they were all life size, 7 feet, 7.5 feet. But because of this idea that was being put in by the British, by the colonizers, not just in a mental state alone, but genetically, all the way literally to our genetics, the entire programming has changed to feel very low about ourselves. And in fact, we have come to a conclusion that we are poor because of being Hindu, because of the Hindu civilization, we are poor. That actually brings us to the next question of today's debate that we're having. The question for everyone here, for all the esteemed members of Rajya Sabha, is how I, my family, my ecosystem has gotten impacted and suffered. So we'd like to hear from you. What are any of your personal or family histories that reflect the impact of colonialism, such as loss of land, tradition, or livelihoods? We have Manitya Lalitambika from Kailasa, Canada, who is also client engagement and lead business development for marketing. Yes, Ma Lalitambika, please go ahead, Ma.
And so today I want to share about the impact that my family has personally faced, the impact of slave trade that is subsequent to indentured labor system that was on Guyanese Hindus that has been profound. It's been across the whole Caribbean. You'll hear the same stories where the British actually abolished slavery in 1834 and turned to indentured laborers of the Hindu civilization to fill these labor voids and their colonies. And this includes countries such as Guyana, where my family is from. The system often refers to the new system of slavery that actually brought over 238,000 people from the Hindu civilization to Guyana between 1838 and 1917. And during this period, the Guyanese Hindus have faced significant challenges. We were uprooted from our homeland, the Hindu civilization, leading to loss of traditions, languages, religions, and being put into harsh conditions where actually our cultural suppression has started within the last 100 years. There's Hindu items are actually, if you look in the history of Guyana, they were often deemed as illegal, they were discouraged, and they were further eroding our cultural identity. The Bhagavad Gita is one that was, hidden. From person to person is how the story of the Bhagavad Gita was told. And if you see in many Guyanese Hindu temples today, what we have held on to person teaching each other, that is what's being taught today. And many Guyanese Hindus eventually sought refuge in countries like Canada, where we hope to rebuild our lives and preserve our Hindu heritage. The Guyanese Hindu diaspora in Canada has actually worked really hard to maintain our cultural identity, especially despite being far removed from our roots, and have established vibrant communities here in festivals and continue our religious practices. And thanks to Kailasa, again, once we do have a space and a place for us to freely practice authentically and learn about the glory of Hinduism, which includes our language, food, cultural scriptures, arts, fashion, and so many richness of Hinduism today. So, it really shows the resilience of Hinduism, not only as a Guyanese, but once more removed from the Hindu civilization to Guyana and now in present-day Canada.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. And just like how you mentioned about how the personal impact, whether it is at a personal level with ourselves and our families, how the colonialism impacted at a personal level. It is one is a global level, an ideological level, a cultural level, but even at a personal level in all our lives and even the ancestors, even in terms of health. When we see the man-made famines, almost over 100 million Hindus were killed by the man-made famines and the starvation which happened during the colonial period. And there is so much of even the health which got impacted because of the colonial rule, and torture and suffering that the generations of families went through. So literally, it is it is the man-made induced torture and suffering, not just at the ideological level, but even at a physical level, where they even beat you physically to remove the Hindu identity, the richness of the Hindu identity that the Hindus carry. And also, I would like to, yes,
Yeah,
Sundaresh
sorry.
Ramaji, you can go ahead.
Just adding to what you had shared also right now, we also have some of the statistics that are there, especially in Guyana, right? Approximately, if we look at the Caribbean period and between the time of 1838 to 1917, approximately 500,000 Indians were brought, out of which 80% were Hindus. And at that time, it was the British Guyana, which was there now, which is Guyana. And all of them were forced as indentured laborers with about 12 hours of work 6 days a week, and no provisions were made for them to settle or anything. And average wages at that point in time was just about 10 to 15 cents per day, and barely enough to cover their needs. So not just on this part of it, so it also led into the various other social and stereotyping where the Hindus were tagged and again reiterated as uncivilized, backward, and continuously propagated to justify the exploitation and the mistreatment. And continuous denigration of Hindu practices, where continuously telling it is superstitious, it's heathen, leading to societal ostracism and marginalization. So these are also some of the statistics that are there that revolve around the exact period that you're telling that have directly impacted everyone. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Malalitambika, for joining in and sharing your thoughts on this.
Yes, next we would like to call upon Ma Nitya Durgananda from Kailasa, Singapore, the founder of Your Presence Heals, to share your points on how my family, and my ecosystem was impacted and suffered by the colonial period.
And this is Manita Dugananda from Kailasa, Singapore. So see, I've been born and brought up in Singapore, which is one of the colonized country during the British colonization. So having been brought up in that system, I can say as a byproduct of that system, what we were trained to basically run like a rat. Okay, so the whole system is to train you to run like a rat. And then by the time you hit your mid-30s, you will be either depressed or you're sick, either mentally sick or physically sick. I had cancer, by the time I reached, the success at the peak of my career, I had cancer, stage 3 cervical cancer. So I can say that this system of running your life for external possession, for wealth, for whatever name and fame, only brought sickness to many, many people in my generation. And I'm seeing that also happening in this newer generation of the kids that are coming. And it is very, very disturbing. That's part of the reason why I chose to contribute in Gurukul, in reviving this whole system of education, which actually not only, bring the best possibility in children, but also give them a fulfillment in their life in whatever they are good at, whether they have come down with to contribute. So see, I speak as a member of growing practicing Hindu. See, I discovered Hinduism through the grace of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. He came into my life and saved me from this mess of a system that has created so much sickness in the country as well as in individually. So by discovering Hinduism, I found health. He healed me completely. I found all the answers to the questions in life, because many questions were not able to answer by some other religion. So I was able to find answer in my seeking, in the seeking of the truth and spirituality. I found all the answers. And not only that, I was deeply inspired by the whole principle of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, that not only helped me to realign myself back to the purpose of my existence while I have descended in this, this form, in this birth, and not only that, continue to work to inspire other people as well to basically discover this beauty of the science of living a dharmic lifestyle, a conscious living. And not only that, helping children as well to discover the importance of discovering this whole lifestyle, the enlightened lifestyle. So I can say that the impact of the British colonization has done too much damage, not only just in the Hindu civilization in India or in Bharat, but also in other parts of the world where colonization happened. So I think that moving forward is important for all of us to work together alongside with the KAILASA and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to once again bring the glory back to its pure essence and inspire more and more future generation or the next generation to
Yes, ma'am.
uplift this whole entire lifestyle. Thank you.
Yes.
Nithyananda.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to add to what you're sharing with every one of us. In fact, when we look at the born and practicing Hindus, right, all around the world, and especially when the Hindus were taken as slaves, indentured slaves to other parts of the world and in other countries also, whether it is in India or whether it is outside, famine and pre-indentured famine was one of the big ways through which the entire British colonization had used to exploit the Hindus all around the world. Because it is when the fundamental requirement for living, when the food is directly attacked, and when it is completely destroyed, that way the whole ideology the whole ideology and whatever we carry breaks. See, when we look at Singapore, right? Bharat Varsha actually was part of Singapore. So Bharat Varsha included Singapore and is inclusive of Singapore. Now, that was the reason from that time all the way till the date when we look at it, it is the same ideologies in terms of how the colonizers put in their ideas, mentality, and delegitimized the very ideas and principles about Hinduism that we have in multiple different levels, including the physical level by physically torturing people, inducing famine, and that way reinforcing mentally again and again about the exploitative ideas and creating self doubt and hatred about the very civilization that we represent.
Yes, fully agree with your sharing, Maharaj. Indeed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. And as we indulge and as we go towards how colonialism has impacted the whole world in terms of the whole Akhanda Bharat and has impacted even at a physical level, has impacted even the health physically, we also wanted to move on to the next question to all the Rajya Sabha members, that when we discuss about how the Hindus need to wake up to this neo-colonialism and what are the implications for the future of Hindus if Hindus do not wake up, if Hindus do not come to realize that colonization has not ended, rather it is happening even today. What are the implications for the future of Hindus, science, and the practice of enlightenment? How does the marginalization of Hindu knowledge systems threaten the future of science and the whole enlightenment practice? And what are the dangers of the continued neo-colonial exploitation for the preservation of Hindu culture and spiritual heritage? I would like to call upon all the Rajya Sabha members to expand on what do you think are the implications for the future of Hindus if the 2 billion practicing and living Hindu diaspora do not wake up to the neo-colonialism. Yes, we have from Kailasa, San Jose, Vinayaka Shrikantha, the Director of Project Management. Yes, Nithyananda Maya.
Nithyananda Maharaj, Nithyanandam Sundareshwar Maharaj, Tatvananda Maharaj. Yeah, I just wanted to start with, before we go to the preservation of Hindu knowledge system, as you know, is very essential. I just wanted to give an example of my own health situation when I was young, and a bit of it so that it sets the context. So when I was young, when I used to fall down and all these things, I was growing up at Mysore. All it was always like you get a Ayurvedic medicine. It was like the traditional. If many of you have seen that, they used to put the leaf, put it onto your wound, and by the next day morning you are done, right? You don't have that wound anymore. You are back in action. But as I saw the next generation going by, lot of medicines, lot of all kinds of antibiotics and all kinds of things started coming in, which has weakened the body. I've seen it in my nephews, cousins, in my own eyes, that their body has been weakened. And definitely this is the nexus of the colonialism in terms of the overall medicine, food chain, pharmaceuticals, and insurance. This is a huge effect. It is a kind of a dangling sword always. You go to whichever part of the world in the current so-called global north and global south, right? Especially in the global north, they call themselves as so very advanced, but the healthcare is completely shredded into pieces, right? There's absolutely no healthcare at all. It is completely gone. It has gone to the four-letter word. It has gone to dogs, right? So that is where from that health, and because the fundamental life energy is about health and your well-being. So that is where Swamiji's Kailasa comes into picture, and his teachings. The preservation of Hindu knowledge system is so essential because it embodies the wisdom, the values and teachings that have guided humanity for millenniums, right? For thousands of years. This knowledge which is there, which is governing health, governance, arts, spirituality, contributes to the most important thing that we are lacking now, is the holistic development. Swamiji many times says that if one teacher cannot teach you all the subjects, how can you learn? Of course, because you only develop the confidence in one or two teachers in your whole life, right? So when Swamiji says that, okay, it is one teacher, then we look all up to him so that we can learn everything. That is the reason why we need to preserve our Hindu knowledge system, right? Especially the Sanatana Dharma knowledge system, because that is the only way we can ensure that the future generations can access the profound insights into life, well-being, and enlightenment. And it is definitely our responsibility to keep alive the teachings of our great ancestors, great rishis, great sages, which promote peace and harmony, right? Because that is the Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti is the basis of everything. And like Swamiji says, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. So that is, using that as the basis, rest all can develop. So put it in essence, as Swamiji says, the Hindu knowledge system is not just a collection of texts. That is what I wanted to say once again. I want to repeat the same words. It is a living tradition. It is a living tradition that even today, even at this moment, can inspire and uplift humanity in today's world.
True, yeah, very true. In fact, even adding to what you were telling, right? Unfortunately, the next generation, I can also very much relate to what you're telling, right? When we are looking at other generations, taking medicine or the current system has become a trend. If you don't take antidepressants, if you don't go to a psychiatrist, it has become a trend that only if you go there, you are actually accepted into the society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually I was just talking to Shivagnana Swarupaya during the PMS, and I was sharing some of the knee situations. Both my ACLs are supposedly gone, supposedly. And when I went to the sports medicine here, because I play volleyball, badminton, and other things. When I went to the sports medicine here in US, after the analysis, they said that, hey, as per our analysis, you are not supposed to walk. I said, okay, thank you very much. I'm not going to come back to you again. So it is that our own confidence in our own systems that we have, the so-called beautiful systems of yoga and the Charyapada and the medicine systems. We don't have to go to a doctor. We have so much of folklore medical systems. We have so much of knowledge in terms of food, in terms of medical, in terms of medicine.
Actually,
right?
here I wanted to add in one point, especially when you're speaking about the food, right? Just a flip side to what you are telling. See, one side is we, and the other side is when other people, when we are looking at the other generation who is there, they themselves feel having problems and having diseases in their life is the right way to live. Because if they don't have that, then there's something wrong. So the next generation is brainwashed so much that what is wrong has become a trend, and what actually in our tradition, food itself is medicine. That is how it was. So what is right became delegitimized. So yes, thank you very much, Vinayakaya, for coming up and sharing your thoughtful insights about this. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Yes, we also have with us Ma Farah Zala. She's also joining us from here to join us and share your thoughts. She's an entrepreneur from AUM Remedies, focusing on mental health. Yes, Ma Nithyanandam.
Nithyanandam, thank you so much for this opportunity. I just wanted to share, that this modern colonialism is currently being affected in our mental health, in our genesis of identity, in the social platforms and the social impact for our children. I work in the mental health field, and this genocide is impacting the consciousness. It never stopped. It is a neo-colonization. And being able to talk about gender when our culture, this beautiful lifestyle and revival of this nation provides information about 11 genders, being all inclusive, being able to express yourself and not feel like you have an identity crisis. And then also touching on the subject of mental health. You spoke so eloquently about the medication is now a very normal thing, and that it's very okay to be, mentally wrong, and that's a trend. Whereas very much we had the science of completion available to, people in mental health, and unclutching. These are our life sciences that can improve the quality of our children's lives. They can improve the quality of our schooling system. Also talking about agriculture and farming and the moral aspect of eating clean food, making sure that we have the right Ayurveda, the right Aushadha, the right medicines that are preparing our children for the future. Bhagavan is very much holding that space and creating that space for each and every one of us. And this revival is not even a revival, it is an unbroken lineage. Despite all of the things that have happened in this Hindu Holocaust, and of all of the things that have happened in the world, this unbroken lineage is that Ayurveda is the science of life. Completion is the science of mental health. Just understanding that all of these things are based off of consciousness and the consciousness of our global humanity. So it affects our cultural impact, it affects our economic impact, it also affects our moral impact. And then also going into our economic digital factors is that there is a new economy, and the new economy is not just money, paper money. It is now into the digital currencies. It's also into digital information that the world needs to know now. So Bhagavan is most definitely the person, the avatar, the being that needs to be shared and Kailasa is the nation for all humanity, not just Hindus, but all humanity. Being able to revive these sciences, these life sciences, is what is will impact the future of our children. And then we can see some dismantling of the crimes against humanity. We can see a dismantling of economic impact and the current day of reviving this beautiful civilization. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ma. And rightly, as you said, actually in the Vedic tradition, we never even had issues of having psychiatric issues or even in the mental health, because everyone was, from the time they're even in the womb, they are being initiated by the Guru Shishya Sampradaya, and they are receiving the knowledge from the Gurukul system of education. And when the colonization happened, even the legitimacy of the whole Gurukul system of education, or even the legitimacy of the Vedas and Agamas, completely, the Hindus were brainwashed into believing that only the Macaulay system of education is right, and only that can even succeed in the current present society. Only if you even participated and learned in the Macaulay system of education and became like a normal worker, as a engineer or as a normal doctor, only when you learned the English Macaulay system of education, only then you had a future. And that is why even the people who were in the colonial time encouraged their own children to not study in the Gurukul system of education, and to go and specifically go and put them in the Macaulay system of education, for them to get brainwashed, because they themselves lost trust that our Hindu Sanatana Vedic knowledge was even a future for themselves or their children. So it is completely a complete brainwashing of the whole Hindu identity and ideology that all Hindus are supposed to carry, into believing, and literally gaslighting Hindus into believing that the Hindu system of education is wrong, and the Hindu lifestyle itself, whether it is the varna shrama dharma or any of the other parts of intricate parts of the Hindu lifestyle, is not useful anymore.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much, Mafaira, for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, we'd now like to move to the next question of the debate today, which is once again a very important part, which is to understand what are the crucial learnings from history, what are the lessons that we can draw from the dismantling of the indigenous governance systems under the colonial rule. How can we ensure that this history is not forgotten and is not misinterpreted for the future generations? So we'd like to call upon all the esteemed members of the Rajya Sabha Parliament, those of you who would wish to partake and share your thoughtful insights on this. We would like to welcome every one of you. Yes, we have with us Ma Barbara from New Zealand. Ma Barbara is a sustainability scientist. Yes, Ma, please go forward.
I'm Dr. Barbara Hook from New Zealand. Just to emphasize the need to maintain these old the knowledge bases that are needed now to implement the purity of the original Hindu knowledge, Hindu techniques, and it requires its own government system to not be lost, not to be subsumed by vested interests who might want to make money from it. It requires the preservation, and it requires the implementation and its full purity. And in order to do that, this is why the nation of Kailasa is needed, to ensure that going forward, these will be implemented as they were defined in the original Veda Agama scriptures. I'm taking two very short examples in that yoga and meditation, which has helped so many people in the world, but it has become very diluted, modified, and so the effect has become very modified. And how much more effective when you can in the way that the original scripture met, perhaps, in some way to modern lifestyle, but exactly as described in the original scriptures, and how that can be so much more helpful. And in order to preserve those things and implement them as they should be implemented, this is the requirement for the Kailasa. Thank
Got
you.
it, Ma. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ma Barbara, for your valuable insights. I'd like to add to what you're sharing, right? See, one of the important parts of this whole colonial dismantling of our government structure, right, the indigenous governance structures, that actually brings to an important part to say what is the need and what is the fragility of self-governance. Many times these colonial powers, right, they always undermine the indigenous governance, and they just like that replace the local systems with foreign administrative structures, weakening the social cohesion and cultural identity. And that is where they destroyed the very backbone of Hinduism, and which is the Gurukul education system. That is where, when they destroyed the backbone and convinced us that that is being a Hindu is the reason for our failure, being a Hindu is the reason for all the loss, then we lost everything. So I think we also have with us Karthikeyan Iyer from Southeast. He's an IT director. I'd like to invite Karthikeyan Iyer to share your inputs on this.
Nithyananda Maharaj and Nithyananda Mall. For the history, I just want to stress one point. Until I came to Swamiji's program, I never knew the real history. See, whatever the history currently being taught, what people think as the history, like 99.9% of the people only know what has been written by the invaders and colonizers. So the real history is not there. So if we say Mughal emperor names, we say, oh, great. We have the railway system, aeroplanes, all the transportation because of British. So this whole fact is completely masked. I feel that the real history needs to be published, brought back. So until that happens, I don't think people, when we say history, they think only what's being taught in the schools, which is completely wrong. I don't know where to go, but I started reading some books, like the real Hindu history that one of the Swamis wrote and what Swamiji taught. So I just want to stress that point. So
Yes, very, very true, Iyer. The whole history that is being taught in the modern Macaulay education, or even at the schools, at a when you're growing up at the child level, when they put in all of the ideas in you, the wrong ideas about your own history, when literally morphing the history, the actual Hindu history, and trying to spread the neo-colonial ideas. And that is what is actually happening with every single school, every single publication that is going on. And that is how Swamiji is reviving the Gurukul system of education, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and is bringing back the authentic history, where we have to bringing light the Hindu Holocaust, where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the United Nations, has published over 22 reports bringing to light this Hindu Holocaust, bringing to light what has happened because of the colonial period to Hindus all around the world, and especially in the Bharatavarsha.
Just to add to this, is a very important thing that where we understand about how just the misrepresentation and false history that's being taught to us is how negatively impacting us, such that today Hindus ourselves have lost confidence on Hinduism. And on top of this, we blame all the issues. Actually, now we were all talking about the persecution and the invasions, but there were so many times that the Mughal invasion did not happen. Once the Mughals came, they invaded and immediately they were successful. No, they had to try so many times. Even today, history books, even for our current and the next generation of Hindus, history books only teach us we were invaded, Mughals came and invaded. And the worst part of all is it shakes our very inner image. Like for me, before I met Swamiji, I used to think, we say we were so Akhanda Bharata, the entire Bharatavarsha was so great.
and we were so powerful, then how could we be destroyed so easily by the invaders? But only after coming to Swamiji, which Swamiji is doing now, Swamiji is empowering all of us to become aware of our history. And we are always shown as losers with false history. But I was shocked to find, for the first time, for the first Mughal invasion to happen, they failed 16 times. And when I say 16 times, it's not yesterday, today, tomorrow they tried. Each try had gaps of centuries. And so each of this, it was only at the 16th time that Muhammad bin Qasim managed to break, and that was only when they retreated, when they used treachery and trait as when they started creating, using fear and greed, they started using treachery as a way to get in. Only that time they were able to break into Bharatavarsha. Till then, it was 16 failed attempts of so many Mughal invasions. Only at the 17th time, they were able to infiltrate or invade into the Bharatavarsha.
And actually, it's very, very important for us to understand, because the failure of them, the 16 times when they failed, where it was in a span of a few hundred years between each, they did not come immediately and attack. We were, see, the Bharatavarsha, see, understand, it's very important for us to use the right terminology here. Hindu civilization spanned across 56 Hindu nations. And all these together was called as Bharatavarsha, where the princely states existed with their own sovereignty, the Hindu kingdoms existed, and we all peacefully coexisted. So this together, the 56 Hindu nations together, is called as Bharatavarsha. We had so many of you from different countries, the modern day countries who are coming and speaking, right? Like including Singapore, Malaysia, all of them are part of this Bharatavarsha. So when we are talking about the Hindu civilization, we are referring to that Bharatavarsha. So from that, what kind of a glorious history we had and how resilient we were, this is not taught to us. And what ends up happening, you know, actually, just wanted to ask all the Rajya Sabha members that are here with us, how many of you, before now, of course, after meeting Swamiji and learning about the true Hindu history, we are empowered within ourselves, having the right understanding. But I just wanted to ask, how many of you have faced this? You and your next generation feels ashamed about the very Hindu identity. Who all have faced this before meeting Swamiji, where like you feel so low, you don't even know about Hinduism. You feel low about a Hindu, like your identity. You're not proud, having the pride to put Rudraksha, put Basma, put Kumkum, go to your office. You're not able to do that. How many of you are able to relate to this? Raise your hands. How many of you are able to relate to this? Exactly. This is the unfortunate condition of Hindus. Now, the condition that we are having, understand, colonialism is directly responsible for this. They burnt our libraries, our universities. We had the largest number of universities, the most popular, largest universities, international universities, and the most ancient universities were Hindu universities. We are not just talking about Nalanda and Takshashila alone. Why so much? Even in Ramayana era, we had the Mithila University, where people from around the world had come. Students, international students came and studied there. But our schools, our history books do not teach us this. So when we don't have the right introduction about ourselves, we feel low and we feel that Hinduism is something wrong. No. Actually, this is why it's so important that your next generation learns about this. The next generation, see, even when we had wars, we never destroyed our temples or gurukuls or civilizational assets. We might have had internal like change of kings. Nothing else was removed when we even had internal wars. This is a very important point for us to understand how dharmic we were, even in our wars. So the only time that the Mughals were able to invade was when they used treachery, when they did not follow the dharma in war. Actually, just wanted to highlight this because it's so important. Today, it's actually the way how Swamiji, Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, is bringing all of us together all of us being here, able to, the Hindu diaspora coming together, able to proudly represent, not just talk a few understandings, but talking statistically, talking with numbers, clear statistics about, through evidence, what our ancestors were subject to. And understand, don't think you are out of that. If you're in a Hindu family, be clear, the post-generational trauma is there in your very biomemory. When Ma Lalitambika from Kailasa, Canada was sharing how her ancestors who were from Guyana were indentured laborers. They were bought as slaves. Understand, that trauma is still there in the biomemory. We are suffering that trauma even now.
And only by barbarianism they were able to destroy our civilization. Please understand, even if you go back to the earliest reference, even when Alexander the Great, when he tried invading India, at one of the remote border kingdoms of us, which was governed by King Purushottama, who's referred to as Porus in their history, and when he was ruling, Alexander the Great, there's very detailed records where he clearly says for the first time they saw animals being used in warfare and they were shocked. We had mighty elephants and we were so advanced in warfare in every of this. But we were elite society. Even in wars, we were so elite and dharmic. It was our dharma that was exploited by these barbarians because they could not beat us with straightforward wars, straightforward strategies. No, they started using treachery as a mean, as a method. And even now, to this day, I'd like to quote this. Even now, in the history textbook, even now, what is being taught? I'm talking about the current syllabus. Let's forget about the past. Right now, what is being taught to your next generation? I'm just going to share a snippet and I'm talking fact, showing the exact snippet to all of you. This is an NCERT history textbook of 12th grade. The title says Themes of Indian History, Part 2, and it features the following lines in the second paragraph of page 234, what the current generation Hindu youth are studying. It says, all Mughal emperors gave grants to support the building and maintenance of places of worship. Even when temples were destroyed during war, grants were later issued for their repair, as we know from the reigns of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. However, during the reign later of the latter, jizya tax was reimposed. And they go on to say how the Mughal kings, such as Akbar, were compassionate and they removed the jizya tax that was imposed on the Hindus. And in this textbook, it elaborates about how the Mughal emperors always gave grants for Hindu temples and to support the building and maintenance of the places of worship. Here we can see the very barbarians who massacred millions of Hindus. This is the history that is being taught to your current and next generation. False history, lies are being taught. What I'm projecting right now is the education that your current generation, your next generation, Hindu youth are receiving. And this is the history that they are learning. The ancestors who were killed by these Mughal barbarians, their descendants are now studying that these very barbarians gave grants for building Hindu temples. In Aurangzeb's history, it very clearly, it is a symbol of pride for him where he piled up skulls of Hindu Brahmins whom he massacred. The pile was so huge. Actually, this Aurangzeb, the barbarian that this false history is referring to, he had in one of his, greatness, the so-called greatness, he references to how he had piled up Hindu priests, the Brahmins, the elite of Hinduism. He butchered all of them, killed, piled up their dead bodies in a huge pile to almost, it was half a kilometer tall. It was huge and such that it was visible from some 10-20 miles away. And he lit the entire hill of dead bodies using the Yajñapavita, cutting each of their Yajñapavita, using that to light up this whole pile. Such a barbarian who tortured innocent Hindus, tortured, killed them, and forcefully tried to convert the Hindus
he is called as if he was a great supporter who gave grants. And this is a false history that your kids, your next generation is learning right now. This is a snippet from the current syllabus textbook. And in his own book, Fatwa al-Alamgiri, which today also, which is one of the main governing book, source book for the whole Islam community. Even in that book, he very clearly details out how all the Hindus are kafirs, the believers in gods, and anyone who is a non-believer of their religion should be massacred. This is clearly there. But still, our current generation only is learning the false lies being taught, perpetrated, and our next generation is being brainwashed to believe these as facts. And this is why the inner image of Hindus are weak. So many of you who rose the hands today, like, when you were saying how before meeting Swamiji, you were itself not confident even wear the Hindu symbols with pride. It is because of this generations of brainwashing that is done. And this brings me to the next and the last question to conclude today's debate. We would like to request all of you to now share, how do you see Kailasa, what Swamiji is establishing through Kailasa as the solution for all these points that we discussed over. So many of you gave amazing inputs, your personal experiences, anecdotes, and you all also shared about various statistics and from the history. We would like to request all of you to now share your inputs on how Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Swamiji, is the only hope. He's the last lamp of Hinduism. He's the only hope alive. How does Swamiji's vision and Swamiji's revival of enlightenment ecosystems through Kailasa and Hindu governance, how does this address the injustices of colonialism? What role does Kailasa play in creating the sustainable and equitable global model that revives Sanatana Hindu Dharma, and why a Hindu nation is needed and the political legitimacy is needed? We would like to call upon all of you, all the members of Rajya Sabha, to please share your inputs on Kailasa as a solution. Yes, Thomas here, you can go ahead. You don't, okay, I see you messaging in the chat. Thomas here, we have Thomas O'Leary from New Zealand. Nithyananda Maya, please go ahead, you can speak.
Nithyanandam, yes. What was just mentioned there is a key element, that the history that has been written and the history that is being written now, it needs to be addressed. The hope that I saw from the beginning with the introduction to Kailasa and my introduction to Kailasa is one that is very positive. For colonialism in our country in New Zealand, there are a couple of personal experiences that are important to note. One was the loss of our language. There was a generation that were forbidden to use the language for a generation in New Zealand, and in the schools they were slapped and strapped and told off, and it became an embarrassment to use the language, and the language is very, very important to New Zealand Māori. And the result was that there was an oppression, a sense of you couldn't speak up, you shouldn't speak up, so you don't speak up. Now, the amazing thing about the Kailasa opportunity is that there's no apology. It's here. It's done. It is it has its own ecosystems. The opportunity for the temples to be in place all over the world. The opportunity for the temple ecosystem to enrich the indigenous populations, the populations in general, redresses the historical affronts that have happened with colonialism, and they're all over the world. I mean, the loss of $64 trillion worth of economic benefit is going to have a massive and ongoing generational impact, but there is an opportunity from the beginning now to send a restart, a reset, a revival that is going to allow people to start again with a deep cultural, rich cultural understanding, and to reset and regain what has been lost. Now, that is immensely positive. Rather than dwelling in what's happened in the past, there is an opportunity to move forward from here. I am amazed, grateful, and stunned really by Bhagavan Swamiji's, the way that he's done it, the methodology. It is legal, it is non-debatable, it's intractable. It is an opportunity for other Indigenous peoples to likewise think, yes, we can stand up, we can reset, and we can move forward positively.
That's a very important point for highlighting, Ayya. Thank you for bringing that up. And because it is how, with all the destruction that's happening to Hinduism, and we need to revive, and it is Kailasa which is the solution for this. And thank you for highlighting that beautiful point. And I think we also have Shri Nitya Tirtharupananda Ayya, and he's a marketing consultant from Columbus, Ohio. Nithyanandam Tirtharupaya, please go ahead.
Nithyanandama. So I grew up in Mumbai in the 1970s and 80s, and my family was from originally from Mangalore, Karnataka. So what happens when you move to a big city in India is that the aspiration of the families is for getting their children the right education. The right education is a Catholic English-speaking English medium school, and so I mean that's the aspiration held by most Indians right now, especially, and so that going because my parents were trying to make it in the big cities, and the vast majority of our school was actually people from sort of South Indian Brahmin backgrounds. So these are people, their families are rooted in this tradition, but the world is pushing them to completely deny this. So from their parents to their generation, all my classmates, they started eating meat. Their parents were not eating meat. The cultural indoctrination is so strong that we view the West as the source of the place to go to, the place where things are happening. That's what the future that is created for us in that system. And I used to come home during the summer vacation, and my grandparents, they were agriculturists, and the month I used to spend there, sannyasis used to come to the house to beg, and they would give them rice. So literally in one generation, that whole ecosystem, traditional Indian ecosystem that supported people who are on the path of seeking had been destroyed when my parents moved to the city. And it's only after meeting Swamiji that whole, even the understanding that injustice has been done, that the British had destroyed, all this knowledge was it was a revelation to me. So literally I would say in the 14, 15 years I've been with Swamiji, my eyes have completely been awakened, which on my own, I had absolutely no idea that this, transformation had happened. So even now, a lot of people in India, there is no debate about a Hindu nation necessarily. There are a few strong proponents, but the vast majority of people are apathetic. All my classmates, if I discuss this issue, they're so and that's why it's taken this long for people even to recognize the need for a Hindu nation. And a Hindu nation, founded by an enlightened master, an avatar, who is rooted in the highest consciousness and can hold that vision. It's not somebody like a neo-political Hindu that just because my father practiced Hinduism, let's be Hindus. No, it's informed by that genius of the civilization is being manifested and radiated and expressed in a way that the complete revival, the possibility of a complete revival exists. And I think that's why it's attracting so many people from so many backgrounds. And I have taken to this just like a lot of other people who are in this meeting today, like a fish to water, and so very, very excited about this new beginning. See, even if you look 5 years back, even this beginning didn't exist. It was all about learning about how to live this lifestyle, being introduced to this lifestyle. But now there's a whole new opening that's happening. It's like, oh no, not only can we live this for ourselves, and with this collective integrity, we actually have our consciousness is being awakened to know we can take this and share this with, so many other people who need this. And so I think this is really a time of hope and a time of excitement for many of us right now.
This just reminds me of one thing. When Swamiji had initiated all of us into the science of power manifestation, which is a sacred science that Sanatana Hindu Dharma has, and Swamiji revived it. And that time, we were all celebrating it, and Swamiji said, "Hey, I have not even opened. It's like I have brought a suitcase of." I'm just paraphrasing in my words. Swamiji said something similar to this, like where Swamiji said, "I have brought like a full suitcase of so many gifts from Mahakailasa to all of you, and this is just like the dust coming out of it. That's it. I have still not even opened the suitcase yet." So we can see, like as you said, even 5 years before, what was there was so different. The possibilities that we knew was much different. It is like Swamiji literally is working on one at a time on each one of us, and evolving us, expanding us, and then showing us the further possibilities. Who knew? Even just like, when Swamiji started Kailasa, it was just Kailasa, the Hindu nation. And then it expanded to United States of Kailasa, where we have the sovereign territories in more than one place. So together we formed the United States of Kailasa, and then it further expanded. Now we have the UAN, where we have the United Ancient Nations, literally United Nations for all the indigenous and the ancient nations. It's like Swamiji keeps expanding, even before we could cognize or comprehend. And this also shows the possibility that we are having, right? Like literally what we are experiencing, what we are having is something way more. And it is only Swamiji who knows the clear solution, what we actually need to do. So if as Hindus, we all can even come together and just be a part of this revival that Swamiji is doing, and just do this, just follow the solution, really we can make it happen. Really, we can see the solution as it's manifesting, see the revival as it's happening.
Absolutely, Ma. This is just it's a time of hope for us. And, the Hindus, we are itching for a leadership. They're itching for somebody to stand up and raise their hand. And, it's happening in the most sort of magnificent way for us. Really, it's, Swamiji who's, taken on all the arrows and all the attacks. And, even in that, there's not much that we have been able to, do for him. So just for him to model for us what it is like to doing that Tandava and the hot coals, and continuing to to remember the goal and to keep that alive. And it's as a role model for us in our day-to-day life. Swamiji at so many levels, he's uplifting us.
Thank you, Ayya. Thank you for that beautiful point that you highlighted. And I would also like, we also have Sri Nitya Muktananda Ayya, who is working as a director for engineering for AI at Google. Nithyanandam Ayya, nice to have you here.
Nithyanandam. Nithyanandam. You asked how Swamiji and Kailasa are contributing to this new world and fighting colonialism. I just want to repeat Swamiji's what Swamiji said about Paramadvaita at different levels. Starting with how you cognize yourself as an individual, colonials would like to see ourselves as savages, slaves, and sinners so that they can exploit us. Whereas Swamiji and Kailasa wants to see ourselves as the divine, as the one with Paramashiva. Second, how you cognize yourself socially, colonials would like to see ourselves as competitors who take advantage of each other. But Kailasa and Swamiji wants us to see each other as divine, so we can collectively, with integrity, work towards the benefit of each other and towards enlightenment of each other. And at a moral level, how do you cognize yourself morally? What law do you follow? What are you responsible for? Colonials really want us to see ourselves as driven by duality and only showing responsibility to our selfish interest. But Kailasa and Swamiji want us to be morally responsible for making every decision based on the welfare of a larger population, the benefit of the world. This reflects in how we create the Gurukul system, economic principles, judicial principles, all of which are based on the principle of Paramadvaita. And finally, how do you cognize the ecosystem and the environment? A colonial thinking is that you see the environment as something that needs to be exploited and destroyed. But Kailasa and Swamiji want us to experience Paramadvaita with the environment and the entire ecosystem of humanity. So we all coexist as one unit rather than exploit each other and destroy each other eventually. Thank you, Ma'am.
Thank you, Aya.
And that's a very important point, like so beautifully brought it up, because this also shows us in how many levels. See, because we, as Hindus, the colonization has cut off our even our awareness that beyond our cognition level, which is the individual level and the emotional level, we also have responsibility to bring Paramadvaita in the social level, moral level, and spiritual level, and the environmental level. Thank you so much, Sri Muktaya, for beautifully highlighting that. Yes, we also have Kartikeyanaya from from Kailasa, USA, Southeast. Yes, go ahead.
Nithyananda, I just want to add one point. The Oxfam report kind of gives a solution like 6 points. They suggest as a solution to remove the inequality of the colonialism. I don't think it'll work. Those are utopian solutions. For example, end extreme wealth, like tax the wealthy. See, all these won't work in the modern world because the world is governed by the currently all power structure, right? It's the might is right. Whoever has the power is right. So in that case, all these solutions they suggested will not work because the power is with them, they won't change. See, if I'm rich, why would I tax myself, right? Very practical. So I feel the only solution is the nation, the model nation that Swamiji is creating, the Kailasa, whereas Sri Muktaya very well expressed. It's all based on the coexistence. Peace, love, and compassion versus competition and power. As we saw in the real world, the rich is getting richer, the equality is getting the inequality is getting growing and growing. So I think the only solution is the Gurukul and the Kailasa nation. That's what I see. So
Thank you. Yeah, you highlighted a very important point because this reminds me of one, message that Swamiji gave. This Swamiji revealed on the Diwali day of 2024. I remember this so well because the way Swamiji revealed, Swamiji said, in all these generations, we have been discussing so many ideas and so many concepts of, what is all of this that needs to what needs to be done. And Swamiji said, now is the time where we need to make all these lofty ideals as a reality. We need to work. We need to start putting down all these ideals that are discussed because you will see some, sustainable goals and environmental empowerment and, gender equality, so much that is being discussed about. But what the people right now are actually interested in is they want to see the results. We have spoken for at least 2-3 generations. We've been speaking about this. We should have this ideal world that we should live in, and all of these are being discussed. But it is only Swamiji who, in such a short span of time, made it happen. Like, Swamiji walked his talk. He made it happen and he showed all of us. And now when we tell the Hindus know when when we say now we have a nation, and when Swamiji is now giving the vision for uniting all the ancient nations together, or whether reviving and making the home for all the Hindus around the world who are persecuted, now all of the Hindus know it is a reality for us. It is not anymore a discussion. It is not anymore the discussion by 10 people sitting in a round table about all these lofty ideals. Swamiji did the work. He got hands-on. Swamiji got his hands dirty. He got on the ground and he did the work, which is why that sacrifice that Swamiji did is why today me and you as Hindus are able to experience this ambience and we're able to experience this ecosystem. So you brought in a very beautiful point. Thank you for that, Aya.
We also have Ma Po from Kailasa Singapore, who is joining us here, who's an emotional wellness speaker and a realtor, who is joined with us here. Yes, Nithyananda Mapo.
Yes. Yes, I would like to say that I have actually, I mean, since I'm in Singapore, I have actually, I know the statistic that the Singapore government spends $7 billion every year just to, help people get out of emotional trauma. And obviously, this hasn't been working very well. In fact, I have actually even, proposed that KAILASA, they have, like what you said, Swamiji has brought over so many skills and techniques and processes that we're all ready to showcase to the world and let people globally experience for themselves. So even just one simple completion technique, right? It can help to drop so much emotional hurt and pain. And this is exactly what Singapore and globally, people suffering from depression, suffering from all sorts of mental, emotional health, all these can be taught to the world. And therefore, I have been, volunteering my services and also even reaching out to the Prime Minister of Singapore to say that, hey, we can do even a qualitative, a quantitative case study. We can try it out. And really, this is what I will appeal to everybody. We can all reach out to, all our respective countries and globally, just to even, for example, like I said, just to share one completion technique that's already a lot, very powerful. And of course, with so many things, like for example, self-love and self-care. What exactly is the technique? Nobody teaches us, but KAILASA can. So this is something that's really, really powerful and it's going to impact everybody globally. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much for beautifully highlighting that. And that's so true. Actually, this also brings us to the action point that we can do, because like you beautifully brought up a nice action point where taking what Swamiji is given, established as a model nation, KAILASA, where these solutions, we can very clearly see the success, the grand success of these principles from Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the lifestyle practices, the Paramasatyas, the truths from Sanatana Hindu Dharmas, and how they are even to this day very practically implementable and local governments and actually be able to take these to the global levels.
And like one thing you highlighted was about the ecosystem, because the ecosystem that Swamiji is establishing is like, it's like a self-inspiring ecosystem which naturally induces that joy and bliss in everyone. Recently, I came across a news where very recently Japan's Yamagata government, they passed a rule. Their depression rates was spiking so high that the government had to pass a one-of-a-kind law saying that every day, every citizen have to smile at least once. Was a law that was passed. They had to pass a law. They had a bill and they had to pass a law. The Japan's government, Yamagata government, they made it a law that their citizens have to smile at least once a day because their depression rates were all-time high. And the average age of depression was reducing, such as moms of, young 5 or 6-year-old children started saying, my child is depressed. That's the extent to which it went. And we can only imagine the kind of an ecosystem that is forming, that reflects on the ecosystem that's forming, that the government was pushed to create such laws, that the government is pushed to create such rules to at least then make their citizens happy to smile. And here Swamiji has established this model ecosystem where the very lifestyle is joy, inducing bliss and joy as a byproduct of your lifestyle. Even if the person, let's say for example, even if the person is living his most dullest day in KAILASA, even that will be 10 times more happier than an average day in the regular world. Because the Charya Pada, the lifestyle that Swamiji is given is that you wake up, do yoga, do puja, you dance, and you just have no space to cherish any depression or any of these powerlessness. That's the lifestyle that Swamiji has established here. So thank you for adding that point, Ma. And we thank all the participants, every one of you who have highlighted various different points today, because each of these are valuable as to highlighting the various aspects of why for us as Hindus, it is important to wake up to these facts.
Yes, we also have Ma Bhavani from Kailasa, Malaysia, who has joined us here and who is a manager in Malaysia and a property developer. Nithyananda Ma.
Andama, what I like to share is in our ecosystem at KAILASA, Swamiji celebrates women. All around the world, we always find there's a lot of emphasis given, but practices are very limited. Here, naturally, we have grown the administration, the leadership skills. Most of us who are here at Kailasha are women. So they are celebrated. No other place I've seen this celebration done in practice. So this is something that other countries, other practices, even British colonization can look at us to learn about this. It's so simplified and inbuilt naturally, flows naturally, that you don't realize that how many women are in very powerful leadership within our Kailasha around the global. I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma. Actually, that is so true. Thank you for bringing that beautiful point here, because it, like, literally every single thing, how in the Vedic civilization in Bharatavarsha, what kind of lifestyle was that? What was the Hindu constitution? How even now, the exact same thing, how the Vedic civilization was taking that, reviving it, mapping it to our modern era, just reviving and gifting it to all of us and making us all understand and making it very practically livable is what Swamiji is doing through Kailasa. Like so beautifully, Ma Bhavani from Malaysia had highlighted it. Like, for example, even if you take the stream of women empowerment, you hear many people talking about this terminology, women empowerment. It is Swamiji who has made it like a practical, already existing solution. If you see in Kailasa, 80% of the administration is by women. It is women who are empowered truly from within and externally to be able to be in leadership roles, leadership positions. And we are empowered with the right introduction to ourselves and to be able to feel that power from within. So this is a very, very powerful enlightenment ecosystem and the revival of the ancient Hindu, Sanatana Hindu Dharma civilization in a nation. That is what Swamiji has given to all of us. So thank you all. Actually, I know there are a lot more participants, the Rajya Sabha members who are waiting here for, to be a part of this. I think we have almost come to the conclusion to this debate today. And it was wonderful to have this parliamentary session with all the Rajya Sabha members, especially each one of you coming from different backgrounds, different countries, so many countries. For some of you, it might be even midnight time, I think, afternoon, morning, I think literally all the time zones who have gathered here and shared so many valuable inputs, especially from the research and statistics, presenting the evidence about the Hindu Holocaust, the colonialism, and how the colonialism still prevails, and how Swamiji, through Kailasa, is helping, really making all the Hindus aware of this and helping us break free from this slavery, helping us break free from the colonial mental setup and to truly discover Hinduism and experience the grand success that Hinduism has to offer for you. So we thank every single one of you who took your time and came here and participated with us.
And we thank all of you for joining here. And we will also be having another debate tomorrow, of which we will be releasing the agenda for all of you. Thank you so much for taking your time. For all the viewers that are watching us, if you would like to become part of the solution, if you would like to become part of the functional nation of Kailasa, to be part of the solution, become part of the Paramashiva Sena, you all can head to the link that's projected, ecitizen.info/PSS, and join, become part of the Paramashiva Sena, become part of Kailasa's Rajya Sabha. We thank all of you for taking your time, joining with us for this parliament session, and we'd like to offer our gratitude to the divine lotus feet of Swamiji and conclude the session with the Purna Mantra.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम तत्सत् सर्वं भगवत् श्री नित्यानंद परमशिव पादुकार्पणमस्तु ॐ नित्यानन्दम्